If you've read Atomic Habits and your life still hasn't changed, this video is for you. You got this book when you were fired up thinking it was going to change everything. But that was months ago and your life is still the same. You're making the same money, in the same shape, the same relationships. I mean, look, it's not all bad. I love this book. I even did a talk about it a few years back. After reading it, I started doing daily stretching, breath work, and I even learned how to play guitar. But doing the big stuff isn't so easy. In this video, I want to share why 99% of the people don't get the results they want after reading Atomic Habits, the missing piece that made the biggest difference for me, and a system I put together for my clients that you can use to make really tough changes in your health, money, or relationships. But first, I wanted to share how I stumbled onto this system and how it helped me lose 100 pounds, quit my job, and build $1 million business. In my 30s, I wasn't really taking life seriously. I weighed over 300 pounds, I was working a good job, but I didn't love it, and I was following the normal life plan. I wasn't unhappy, but I wasn't satisfied. It was a normal, boring life. I knew things could be better, so I'd read self-help books and take seminars that would cause me to make these little changes, like getting up early, meditating, making my bed, or even joining a gym. And I'd feel a little bit better. Felt like I was doing something, like I was moving forward a little bit. But even if these habits stuck, they didn't lead to long-lasting changes in the things that really mattered. And the same thing happens to people that read Atomic Habits. You take these 4 laws, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying, and you think logically, great, I'll just make these simple changes to my diet and fitness and I'll be able to lose weight for good, right? I can totally do this. Why is it so hard for everyone else? Look, the reason most people fail in changing the things that matter to them is because big changes require more than just logic and steps. When you have a little goal, it doesn't take much to get moving. If you're trying to floss more frequently, it's not such a big deal to create a system for flossing. When I wake up, I will floss 1 tooth. Even if it's a medium-sized goal, like learning to play guitar. It's a little harder, but it's still pretty low friction. You commit to playing for 10 minutes per day for a few weeks and you start to see yourself as a musician. But when you are trying to make big life changes, you've got a bunch of already established habits and emotions around those habits that make it a lot harder for you to change. When I'd start new habits around health to lose weight, I'd feel better and I would sometimes even make progress, but I never made lasting change. If I wanted to do that, I'd not only have to develop good habits around eating and exercise, like eating whole foods and preparing my food and strength training and cardio and getting 7 hours of sleep and reducing my stress, but I'd also have to break bad habits around drinking too much on the weekends or eating ice cream or watching too much Netflix or going out to eat, ordering DoorDash, snacking when I'm bored. All of a sudden this starts to feel really hard. I was just dabbling. I'd join a gym or try a new diet, but the first time I met with any resistance of my old habits, everything would fall apart. And it always happened on Friday or Saturday nights, when my friend would call me and say, hey, you wanna go out and get something to eat? And all of a sudden we're eating tacos or burgers or a beer or 3, and then I'd feel hungover and want donuts or bagels in the morning. You do that for 2 to 3 out of 7 days in a week and you will not get into shape. But I did stumble upon a solution that solved my problem, and later I'll share the system I created that helped over 9,000 other people make lasting change in their health and business. It started with a job transfer, actually. I got an offer to move from California to London as part of my job at an investment bank. I had 4 months to get ready, and I thought I'd better get in shape before I go over there because everyone wears tight clothes and I am not in a position to do that. Losing weight became the #1 priority. I couldn't dabble anymore. I had to make it happen in those next 4 months. I found a trainer, prepaid for 4 months of sessions, and committed to doing everything they said until it was time to go. And it sucked. I mean, it really sucked. They made me run, lift weights, do body weight movements, eat a bunch of vegetables and meat. I had to get up at 5:30 in the morning to do the workouts, and I would often be sweating before the warm-up even started. Then all day I'd be sore and limping from that morning's punishment, but I never even considered quitting like I'd done in the past. And that's because I went all in. You see, most people never give their all to the things that matter. They dabble in getting in shape and earning more money and starting a business or finding a mate. They're scared to risk it all because what if it doesn't work? They'll look stupid, they'll lose money or reputation, and they'll die alone under a bridge. But if you really put your back against the wall, you will fight like hell to survive, no matter what it took. I gave myself so many reasons to get in shape and put so much on the line that it kind of choked the life out of my bad habits. I put more money than I wanted to spend. I had a deadline for when I was leaving and I didn't want to be a fat American in London. I told everyone I was doing this, and I hired a coach that I didn't want to let down. There was too much on the line line for me to fail. So all the excuses I used to have to get pizza or an extra beer started to feel like excuses. I used that same strategy when I started my first business. I put a bunch of money into it. I got into a partnership with someone. I signed a lease on a building, and I told everyone I knew that I have a business. I had to make it work. When you really put your ass on the line, all the resistance you felt in the past are just minor hurdles in your way to your goal. Now, the only drawback to going all in is it requires all of your energy. And while putting your all into something is the fastest way to get there, it's not always practical for every goal every time. So you have to figure out a way to balance the high motivation, all-in energy with the habits you can sustain in the long term, because you want to keep your results. When I figured out how to lose the weight by going all in, I started sharing that with everyone I knew. But unfortunately, their motivation didn't last as long. They'd work for me for like 8 weeks, lose 20 pounds, but as soon as our time together was over, they'd gain it all back and more. And in business, I'd have clients that would take a bunch of action and get fired up right after our call, but 2 days later, they'd need another shot of motivation to get going again. And this creates kind of a vicious cycle that makes it worse off if you go through it too many times. So I had to develop a system for my clients that combined short-term motivation and long-term habits. It was like the best of going all in and the principles of Atomic Habits. And it's called the 10-30-100 rule. I realized that in order to achieve a hard goal, you don't have to be perfect all the time, but you have to establish the right habits and stick with them most of the time. But before you even do that, you have to actually start. The 10-30-100 rule is this. You decide on a goal and pick the 2 to 3 key habits that will make that goal happen. If it's losing weight, your habits are working out, following a diet, or sleeping for 7 hours. If these are too tough, you just pick one. Then you commit to doing these goals for 10 straight days. No cheats and no days off. This is where motivation has to be high and stay high. Go after these 10 days like your life depends on it, with 100% compliance. Your only goal here is to establish a habit. And if you see results, great. If you don't make it through those first 10 days, you have 2 choices. You can either quit the goal because it's not important enough, or you start over again until you get through the 10 days. And after that first 10, you go into the next 30. Now during this time, you want to be 90% compliant. You don't have to be perfect. You can miss 1 day out of every 10 days. The goal of these 30 days is to keep the momentum up long enough so that you start seeing actual results. For most habits, you can start to notice change in the first 40 days. Your pants start to feel looser, you'll get more responses to your content for your business, etc. But if you get no results, decide whether you want to continue on this habit or start over again with a new one. And if you drop below 90% compliance, then you repeat the 30 days until you get there. Now, if you get through that and you see progress, then move on to the next phase. So we've done 10, we've done 30, now we're going for the full 100. So the next 60 days is all about making that habit a part of your life. You can miss 1 day a week and still keep the momentum going. Our goal is 80% compliance. If you need to go on vacation, take a weekend day off, or you just slip up, you'll still be on track as long as you get back to it the next day. Now, for most hard changes in life, you can see significant progress by just sticking with it for 100 total days. And it all starts with the first 10. Now, one of my favorite ways to track these habits is using a paper journal. It gets me off my phone and gives me space to think. Go check out this video over here and see how I use my journal to keep track of my habits and improve my life. And do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video, you got something out of it, please consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next video.